For the 5th time, they forgot to invite me for Christmas. So I bought a house in the mountains just for myself. A week later, they showed up with a spare key to break in, thinking I was alone. Little did they know I had a cop, cameras, and a lawyer by my side. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so to stay up to date with the most shocking and real stories happening around you. For the 5th year in a row, they forgot to invite me for Christmas. It wasn't a mistake this time. I could feel it. It was early December, and I was drinking coffee by the window when my iPad rang. Ethan, my 8-year-old grandson, was calling from my son Mark's house. His small face filled the screen, framed by flashing Christmas lights behind him. "Grandma, why aren't you coming for Christmas again?" he asked. I froze. "What do you mean, sweetheart? No one told me about Christmas plans yet. Dad said you're busy this year. Are you going somewhere fun? Can I come?" Before I could answer my daughter-in-law. Laura appeared perfectly composed, her smile sharp as glass. "Ethan, you know you're not supposed to use the iPad without asking." She turned to me. "Oh, hi, Ellen. He's been testing boundaries lately." "Laura," I said evenly. "Ethan mentioned Christmas. It sounds like you're hosting." Her expression tightened. "We're still finalizing things. Nothing's confirmed yet, of course." I replied softly. "Let me know when you decide. I'd love to see the kids." After she ended the call, silence settled like frost around me. 5 years, 5 empty Christmases since my husband Daniel passed. Each year came with a new excuse. "We're keeping it small, the kids are sick. We changed plans last minute." I looked around the quiet house that once overflowed with noise and life. Now it felt like a museum. Tidy, polished, hollow. Something inside me cracked that day. Something that had bent for too long. If they didn't want me at their table, I would build one of my own. That was the moment I decided. This Christmas would be different, not for them, for me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, and my heart pounding for months. I'd been daydreaming about a quiet place. In the mountains, a house surrounded by pine trees, snow, and silence. A place that didn't carry echoes of old arguments or hollow apologies. I typed mountain home for sale and pressed enter. The listings felt like windows into another life. One caught my eye immediately. A Modi. Urn cabin with floor-to-ceiling windows and 5 acres of privacy. It was more house than I needed, but maybe that was the point. When the realtor, Diane, met me the next morning, she looked me over with polite curiosity. "This is quite an investment, Miss Parker," she said. "Most buyers in this range are families or young professionals." "I'm neither," I replied. "And that's exactly why I'm here." The moment I stepped inside, something in me settled. The sunlight poured through tall windows, spilling across stone floors. There was a grand fireplace, a sleek kitchen, and a view of the mountains that looked almost unreal. "This place has a full security system," Diane mentioned as if testing me. "Good," I said. "I want to feel safe." When she asked if I needed time to think, I smiled. I've been thinking for years. 2 weeks later, I signed the papers, paid in full, as I drove up the snowy road to what was now my mountain home. I felt a lightness I hadn't felt in decades. No children to please, no calls to wait for, no chair left empty at someone else's table. For the first time in my life, I wasn't preparing to be someone's guest. I was becoming the host of my own story, and this time, I wasn't going to apologize for it. The first morning in my new house felt like waking up inside a dream. Outside, snow fell softly over the pines, and sunlight stretched across the valley like a golden ribbon. Inside, everything was still. No phone ringing, no voices, no demands, just peace. I unpacked slowly, room by room, every item I chose. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every curtain felt like a declaration of independence. This home wouldn't be a shrine to the past. It would be a promise to the woman I was becoming. By the 3rd day, I had installed new locks and reactivated the security system. The realtor had mentioned it came with cameras and sensors, which I could monitor from my phone. I didn't expect to need them, but something in my gut told me I might. That afternoon, I called my late husband's closest friend, Marcus, a retired attorney. "Who'd become like family," Marcus, I said, half laughing, half shaking. I think I've done something outrageous, he chuckled. You've done something brave, Ellen. It's about time you started living for yourself. He offered to visit that weekend to review the paperwork and help me settle in. When he arrived carrying a bottle of champagne and his usual calm energy, he looked around in awe. This suits you, he said. Not the grieving widow, but the woman who's finally ready to breathe again. We toasted to new beginnings as snow fell outside, and for a moment I forgot about the ache my children had left behind. Later that night, as the fire flickered low, I caught my reflection in the glass window. Silver hair, steady eyes, no longer small. For the first time in years, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt found. And somewhere deep down I knew peace never comes without first learning to stand alone. A week later my phone buzzed, with a notification from the security app, movement detected front porch. I frowned. No deliveries were scheduled. When I opened the camera feed, my heart dropped. It was my daughter Julia. She and her husband were standing at my door, bundled in coats, scanning the porch as if searching for something. Then Julia reached into her purse and pulled out a key. A key. I watched in disbelief as she unlocked the door and stepped inside my house, my private space. The camera followed them through every room. This place must have cost a fortune, Julia said, running her hand along my new counter. Her husband opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water and laughed. Guess Mom's not as broke as we thought. I froze, the sound echoing like a slap. They explored every room, my bedroom, the study, the pantry. Then Julia set the key down on the counter and said, Michael will want a copy, we'll all need access for Christmas. And then they left. By the time Marcus arrived, my hands were shaking. They used a key, I said, showing him the footage. He frowned. That's trespassing, Ellen. How did they even get one? We called the realtor W. Within an hour, Diane returned the call, her voice trembling. Your son came to the office, she confessed. He said you'd asked him to help coordinate deliveries because of your mobility issues. I closed my eyes. They had lied, manipulated, invaded. By that evening, I changed every lock in the house and added new security codes. This home was mine, and no one, family or not, would take that from me again. I wasn't going to confront them yet, not until I was ready. The next morning I woke to a flood of messages from Mark. Mom, we need to talk about this house situation. Call me immediately. From Julia. Why didn't you tell us you bought a vacation home? We need to discuss this as a family. From Daniel, are you sure this is safe? Mom, living alone in the mountains isn't a good idea. Not one of them said, congratulations. Not one said they were happy for me. I didn't respond. Instead, I called Marcus. They're coming, I said. They think they can just walk in again. He was silent for a moment, then said, Then let's make sure you're ready for them. We met that afternoon to plan every detail. I also called James Cooper, a neighbor I'd met earlier. A local police officer on medical leave who lived down the road. He'd been kind, practical, and protective. After I told him what happened, he said firmly, You don't need to handle this alone. I'll be there together. The three of us devised a plan. If my children wanted a surprise visit for Christmas, then I would let them arrive, just not the way they expected. Marcus would bring official paperwork, James would be present in uniform, and I would greet them with calm authority. This isn't about revenge, Marcus reminded me. It's about respect. I nodded for years. I begged for invitations. This time they'll learn to knock. When we finished, James looked at me and said quietly, They're not ready for the woman you've become. I smiled. Maybe it's time they met her. The plan was simple. Let them come, let them see. Only this time I'd be the one holding the door. Christmas Eve came bright and cold. The K. End of morning that sparkled like glass. I woke before dawn, heart steady, mind clear. Every inch of the house had been prepared. The table was set for three. Just me, Marcus, and James. White lights glowed along the mantel. A small, elegant tree stood in the corner, trimmed with silver and gold. No childish decorations, no chaos, just peace. At noon, James arrived in full uniform, snow still dusting his shoulders, lock-secured cameras active. He said if they show up, you'll know before they even reach the porch. An hour later, Marcus came bearing champagne. In calm authority together, we reviewed the plan one final time. At 3:30, James's tablet chimed, They're here. I looked at the screen, 3 vehicles crawling up the drive, my children, their spouses, and every grandchild. 10 people luggage gifts, confident smiles. They really think this is their vacation, Marcus muttered. I took a breath. Let's greet them properly. We watched as Julia tried to unlock the door. The new key didn't fit. Confusion spread across her face, then a ring of the doorbell. I opened the door slowly, wearing a burgundy dress and my pearls, the same ones Daniel gave me on our 30th anniversary. Surprised they all cheered. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. It is a surprise, I said evenly, especially since I wasn't expecting guests. Mark laughed nervously. Come on, Mum. We thought we'd bring Christmas to you. How thoughtful, I said softly, though I don't recall inviting anyone. Behind me, James stepped into view. Uniform gleaming. Silence fell instantly. Julia blinked. Mom, why is there a police officer here? Because I said calmly, this year I decided to protect my peace. Mom, this is ridiculous, Mark said, his voice tight. We're family. You can't treat us like intruders. I held his gaze. Then maybe you shouldn't have acted like ones. The room went silent. Even the grandchildren stopped fidgeting. I gestured toward the living room. Let's talk. They filed in uneasy. Now Marcus stood near the mantel, briefcase in hand, while James positioned himself quietly by the douche. All watchful but calm, I turned on the television screen, linked to my security system. 2 days ago, I said, Julia and her husband entered my home without permission, using a key obtained through deception. Julia's face drained of color. That's not true. We just wanted to see the place before Christmas. I pressed play. Their recorded voices filled the room, Julia laughing, her husband opening my fridge, both of them talking about my secret money and how they'd all stay here for Christmas. No one spoke. When I paused the video, James's voice filled the silence. This footage shows clear, unauthorized entry in legal terms that's trespassing. Mark turned red. We didn't mean any harm. You're blowing this out of proportion. Marcus opened his briefcase, removing a single sheet of paper. Miss Parker has decided not to press charges on the condition that each of you acknowledge what happened and agree to respect her boundaries moving forward. Julia's husband scoffed a contract with your own mother. I met his eyes. If it takes a contract for my children to treat me with respect, then yes. Year-old Ethan raised his hand timidly. Grandma, are we in trouble? I knelt down, softening my voice. No, sweetheart, the grown UPS are just learning a very important lesson about asking before taking. Then I stood, looked at my 3 adult children and said quietly, this isn't punishment, it's clarity. For a long moment no one spoke. The fire crackled behind me, throwing light across faces I'd once known by heart, but now barely recognized. Finally, Julia broke the silence. Mom, we didn't mean to shut you out all those years after Dad died. Everything changed. The holidays were hard. Hard, I repeated softly for you, she winced. That's not what I meant. You just made it easier for yourselves by pretending I didn't exist. I said, 5 Christmases. Julia, 5? Mark rubbed the back of his neck. We thought you preferred being alone. You always said you didn't want to be a burden. That wasn't truth. Mark, I said quietly, that was pride. The kind you forced me to swallow when you stopped calling. No one argued. Even Daniel, usually defiant, lowered his eyes. Then Ethan, sweet, honest Ethan, spoke up. But Grandma, we're here now. Can't we just start over? His simple words hit harder than anything his parents could have said. I took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, sweetheart, but starting over means things have to change. I turned back to my children. From now on, you'll visit when invited. You'll knock before entering my home, and you'll remember that respect isn't optional. It's love in action. Julia's eyes shimmered with tears. You're right. We've been selfish. We were so busy protecting our own comfort that we forgot about yours. Marcus cleared his throat softly, so he said, holding out the paper again, Are we ready to make that commitment official? One by one, they signed. No dramatic apologies. No excuses. Just quiet understanding. As they finished, I said simply, This isn't about boundaries anymore. It's about dignity, mine, and hopefully yours too. And for the first time in years, I felt peace settle where bitterness used to live. After they signed, the air in the room felt different, lighter, quieter, as if years of unspoken tension had finally exhaled. Julia wiped her eyes. "Mum, I can't promise I'll get everything right, but I'll try to do better." Mark nodded. "We all will," I smiled faintly. "Trying is a start." I invited them to stay for cocoa before heading back to town. The grandchildren crowded the kitchen, laughing as James helped pour whipped cream into their mugs. Marcus, ever the observer, murmured, "I think this might be the first peaceful Parker Christmas in years." He wasn't wrong. When they finally left, I stood on the porch watching their cars wind down the snowy road. For once, I didn't feel abandoned when they drove away. I felt free. Later that evening, Lily, my oldest granddaughter, appeared in the doorway holding her overnight bag. "Grandma, can I stay? I want to help you set up for tomorrow." Her request startled me, then melted something deep inside of sweetheart, I'd love that. We spent the night baking cookies and decorating the small tree, talking about school friends and her dreams of studying art. She looked at me between laughs and said, "You're not like how Mum describes you. You're actually fun." I laughed softly. I guess she's never seen me without rules to follow when she finally went to bed. I sat by the fire alone and whispered a quiet thank you to the mountains for giving me space to grow, for showing me that love without boundaries isn't love at all, and for teaching me that peace isn't found in being included, it's found in choosing yourself first. That night, I slept deeper than I had in years. The next morning, the world outside was wrapped in white silence. Snow blanketed the porch, and trees untouched and perfect. I brewed coffee, the smell filling my warm kitchen, and thought about everything that had changed in just a few days. A week ago, I was the forgotten mother, the invisible guest at everyone else's Christmas. Now I was something else entirely whole, steady, and finally at peace with standing alone. Mark and Julia called later that morning. This time they didn't assume. They asked Mom, "Can we come by for dinner?" I smiled. "You may." That small phrase, "you may," carried all the power I'd once given away. They arrived early, respectful, almost shy. We cooked together, laughed a little, and for the first time in years, the conversation didn't circle around guilt or obligation. It was simple, real. When they left, Julia hugged me tightly and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on us." I smiled, "Thank you for finally showing up." After they were gone, I sat by the fire again and realized something. Peace isn't found in being needed. It's found in being respected. I used to think setting boundaries would push my family away, but all it did was show them how to meet me where I stood. And maybe that's the true heart of revenge. Not anger, not payback, but becoming untouchably content in your own life if you've ever been forgotten, dismissed, or made to feel small. Remember this: you can't control who includes you, but you can always choose yourself. This was the Christmas I finally did. Thank you for watching this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. I truly value every story and every voice. Don't forget to subscribe to Tears and Strength and share this video with your friends.